Have you eaten?
Long ago, I learned to get by on 1 meal a day.
But are you hungry, though?
I'm thirsty.
You want a cup of tea?
Nah. I got a pain behind my eyes.
What time is it?
Doesn't feel much like daytime. You'd never know it was winter by looking outside.
Why don't you get up? Take those brothel creepers off the bed.
That's okay. One can think just as well lying down. Noel, have you grown tired of me?
Have you lost the use of your legs? You guileless layabout? This isn't normal. We're practically ruined. At least we're on equal footing for once. I did everything I could.
Are you suggesting I'm not carrying my weight? I wish you'd tell me because I'm much too young to know. Oh, come on. I just need a little more time. I never got into that regular routine of work. It's not easy. It's totally unnatural for me. You know it. So come on, man. Back off. Give me a break. Otherwise, I feel dreadful. Fuck. What if I get sick? Look, I wouldn't blame you if you hated me. What I did was wrong. I should have known that.
We barely have enough to keep the wolf from the door. And you pretend like everything's okay. You're nothing but an incorrigible idler and a squanderer, but you always find something to be glad about.
What a venomous man you are.
I'm not a venomous man. You bring out the worst in me.
You poison my life. I've worn myself out. I'm tired. I'm spent. I'm done. What do you want me to say, man? Life doesn't leave one alone.
Well, when we've finally been dispossessed, at least you'll have a dandy new blazer and new shoes. You know, despite your elegant attire, you're nothing but a pauper and a wastrel, flitting around place to place, indulging in nothing but pleasure until it fades. When will you see that you're part of this world? You don't even know the picture you're in. You should take that jacket straight down to the moneylender.
Why are you so angry? Everything I do makes you angry. I don't know why.
Why am I so angry? What's the matter with you?
Look, I'm in trouble. I've got no one else to turn to. I need your help.
That's what you always say. And why don't you try doing something for a change? You're penniless, but with a mouth for consuming. Learn a skill. You're weak.
I've got a law degree. That's something. Oh, come on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I screwed up. What do you want me to do? I'm not perfect.
You are perfect.
But I'm trying. I'm doing everything I can, but it's hard sometimes. It's hard to live simply. Why can't I simply lead a useless, An extravagant, useless life. I said some things last night, as you know.
Yeah.
Well, I want to apologize.
Apologize. But the things you said weren't the truth?
No, I didn't say that. Didn't say that.
Why are you here?
I've got nowhere else to go.
I've heard it all before, and I'm sick of it. You are the worst person I have ever met. You're completely unreliable.
Why is everything always so dramatic with you? Seriously. Let's see, I'll be out of this awful place. I'll go abroad. I could be someone different. But in the meantime, we should at least treat nice to each other. You know? Let's stop always being so mean all the time. Noel, come on,
I don't
man.
want to talk.
I'm trying to talk to you here.
Let's try not talking.
We came back. I thought that's what you wanted.
Yeah, well, I didn't think you'd be here.
Well, no, of course you wouldn't. I'm trying to help you.
You can't even help yourself. What do you want? Look at me. You come in here and you're a weight on me. You understand? You're a burden. You're dragging me down. Just keep away from me. God damn it.
If I left, I'd probably never hear from you again. Well, you don't find that kind of sad? At least I control my fate. When it's scary to jump, that's when you jump. Otherwise, you'll spend your whole life in the same place.
You expect a lot from fate.
You know, I just want to feel good about myself for once. Pale. There's no sunlight in this room. I'm sick of everything. It's lonely here.
Yeah, you don't even know where you are.
You know what? You seem different.
Well, that's your problem. You don't listen, nor do you see. You've been nurtured on nothing but make-believe. We can't even see ourselves. Look at me and tell me what you see.
I don't see anything.
You have no imagination. Can't end this way. I'm going out.
Great. You'll go out and you'll come back in a couple hours and we'll have the same conversation again. Well, I'm sure you'll come back with great stories. You're right. You should go.
And what about you?
You can't be worried about me anymore. Everything that's been bad. I've been a part of every horrible thing that's happened here. I want to be part of something good now. I never meant to wrong you. I want to put it right, man. I mean it.
You still look like a movie star. I mean, you were beautiful. Now, you look ordinary. You're gone to seed.
Well, I'm an artist and a gentleman, sir. Noel. Noel. Seriously. What's wrong with you? You don't look well. The light's gone out of your eyes.
Call yourself artist. You're so self-absorbed. You don't even really know who I am. A lot of people think there's something wrong with me. They don't say it. I know that's what they think. A lot of people want to see me fail. God, it smells sweet. I can't stand it.
Yeah? I don't smell anything. You should go out for that stroll. Get some fresh air into you. It'll be good for you. Before you split, you could spot me like $3.
Didn't I see you with a 20 last night?
But yeah, I don't want to break it.
I can't stand the boredom of wandering around the city all day. The neon makes me shaky. I barely know which way to look. I feel like I'm losing control. I can't think clearly.
I know it hasn't been easy for you. The city has a way of just being a mirror.
How many times can I re-experience the same thing? I don't know. I like to remember things my own way, but only I'm not sure if it's right. Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm just looking at you. I had a funny image in my head. And I feel bad. I don't want to let you down.
You're not gonna let me down.
I'm not.
You have to worry about your own life. I'll be fine here.
Yeah. You sure?
You look after yourself.
I don't know what to say.
Don't say anything.
I guess I'm just scared I'm never gonna find happiness in this life. I know it sounds strange, but I never figured I'd be around this long.
It was the largest inland city in the world, not connected by a road. You could only get to it by barge. 3 days upriver in a hammock. Nobody really knows where the river begins. It's immeasurable. And when I got to the harbor, I met Joy. She lived in the suburbs with her mom. I adored her. I was drawn to places like these. I'm not sure what was wrong with me. They left a tray of cold fish by the door and a bowl of hot water. They didn't have to do that. I woke up in the dark, sitting upright with my head cocked back against the headboard. I had the vague feeling that I had been hit over the head with something. And it was a tired thought, considering the violence of it. My ears were ringing, but I wouldn't necessarily describe it as a sound. And I hunched over, and I thought about that thought. I couldn't see anything. There were no windows in the room except for one that was painted shut. And I was talking to someone in the room, a dull, insipid voice. But I also knew that I was alone. All I knew was that I needed to get out of there before I couldn't get out of there. I felt compelled to flee my thoughts. Normally, I avoided these places. I wouldn't call it a budget room. There wasn't anything else. The place was ill-drained and ill-ventilated. And I had this labored feeling in my chest, like I couldn't draw in enough air. So I lay face down on the damp mattress with one eye on a little stain in the fabric, a coil in the mattress pushed against my sternum. I couldn't be bothered to adjust myself. The discomfort served as a sort of a focal point. My eyes slowly traveled over the different surfaces in the room. But that something wrong was definitely something else. I should have slept in the shrubs under the bridge by the riverbank, where at least I could have had a view of an illuminated castle and taken in some fresh air. That spot always gave me a rare sense of integrity. And there were hobos camped there. I could hear them snoring in the bushes. I was comforted by their presence, even if I couldn't see them. And then a young man, well-dressed, clean-cut, woke me up. He was squatting beside me, and he was motioning with his hand for cigarette. I'm mute, maybe? I obliged him. And we smoked in silence. I avoided eye contact. I wasn't in the mood for company or small talk. I couldn't think of anything to say. And he ran his fingers through my limp hair. My mane had become densely matted over the years from the diesel fumes. I felt ashamed. The intention was unmerited. His grimy hands and his dirty nails revealed a more accurate measure of his social standing, despite his refined features. His badly frayed collar and his missing 2 front teeth betrayed something unsettling. He was overdressed for the weather. He was wearing a woman's raincoat. I know maybe it was his mother's. I always think the best of people. His desire was misplaced, and it was high time to decamp. I quickly gathered up my wool blanket and frantically made my way through a birch thicket towards the staircase leading up to the bridge. He kept pace with me, panting, and licked my ear with his ciliated tongue. And then he managed to squeeze his dirty hand down my trousers, grope my flaccid penis and scrotum as we ran, and I derived no pleasure from this, despite the newness of it. When I was left with the choice of jettisoning my remaining possessions or enduring this trespass, either way, I would go on. I was left with nothing, not even a blanket to cover me. And I had both the entire city and no place at all to bed down. I decided to head uptown to the railway station, always the last resort. And then out of a perverse curiosity, I decided to summon what energy I had, see what was underneath the cot. I managed to pull my emaciated body to the edge of the mattress and cock my head underneath. The exertion and the reverse blood flow served to exacerbate an already biting migraine headache. I could just make out what was underneath the mattress, hanging from underneath the mattress, underneath me. I quickly sprang back and made an attempt to return to my own thoughts. I tried to sleep with the lights on, but they only made worse the nightmarish quality of the old-fangled decor. And without provocation, I suddenly overcame my inertia, stood up. I had to lean on something for a moment. I was overwrought and lightheaded. Joy's buoyant charm would have surely elevated my spirits. Things were getting worse. This was not the time to be alone, at least not like this. Put my hand down my trousers and attempted to masturbate to a vague and static image I had of her. I thought the picture in my head might invigorate me. It didn't. I stood there, laboring. It was futile, as usual. By now, the room was filled with an acrid smoke. It seemed unlikely to find myself in 2 rather bad predicaments at the same time. Each and every object in the room gave me terror, seemed to represent irreparable failure. The digital clock on the nightstand seemed huge and oddly distant. I can't remember if the smoke was in the room before or after I fell asleep. I kept turning that same question over and over in my head. Stagnant fog hung just below the ceiling as I made my way down the hallway. Everything was different. They must have changed the decor. I groped the banister with both hands as I tottered down the staircase to the reception area. I demanded water, then I pleaded. I assumed that might be the thing I was in lack of and the palliative to my ills. I stood there exposed, waiting for some sort of sign that all of this would be resolved. The only other person there was lying on a tattered mat in the gloomy hallway with his back turned away from me. I doubted he worked there. It's rare that I weep in front of strangers, especially those that I've just met. I was becoming undone. I didn't know what was wrong with me, nor did he. He just continued to lie there indifferent. Something was very wrong. I staggered out into the humid air, wearing only my woolen brown pants that had been slashed down to the kneecap. I felt short of breath. It became suddenly chilly as I noticed that I no longer owned a waistcoat. And I remember the counterman telling me that when it was cold, he would put butter on his lips. And that seemed an oddly extravagant gesture for this kind of heat. There was an itinerant out back burning garbage in a large rusty oil barrel right below my window, and his gentle expression never wavered. And all this made me feel ashamed and self-indulgent. I went back in search of the familiarity of the front hall, hoping the scene might change in my favor, and it hadn't. The man was still there, lying comfortably with his head buried in his dirty sleeve. Curiously, the front gate was chained and locked. I couldn't get out. I was locked in. With the prospect of being no longer able to return to my room, I had to come to grips with the grim idea of spending what remained of the night huddled on the concrete floor with my new companion. Next to the cantina, there was a series of abandoned horse stables built high atop a sandy hill. I remember having to conjure the resolve to walk up there unclothed past hundreds of croaking frogs. I was anxious. There were locals circulating through these stables, mostly chain smoking. They ignored me. That was fine. I wasn't feeling sociable. I was shy after all. I had only a pair of soiled pants on and nothing else. I felt like a tourist, but not the usual kind. There were no horses here. It was sedate enough, despite the powerful din of a generator. I crammed my head between two slats into one of the stalls, Maybe I'd be lucky enough to find a quiet corner in the animal feed to calm myself for a few moments. It was dark, but I noticed some horse rugs hanging from a crosspiece. Within each of these self-fashioned partitions was a bedroom of sorts. Most of the spaces were separated by a series of bed sheets. And the curiosity that this place so plainly evoked gave me temporary reprieve from my own malaise. At the far end of the shelter, there was a singular light, a television set on top of a wooden milk crate, playing a scene of a man in a white sailor suit sodomizing a girl on the hood of a vintage American automobile. It wasn't often that I was exposed to the genitalia in plain view, glistening and framed by a open zipper and a hiked skirt. And the explicit nature of the act appeared to me then as pure violence. I felt at once a mixture of revulsion and pleasure. This must have been envy. While space was carefully decorated with magazine cut-ups pinned out on some of the wooden beams, teen starlets. Still, there was nothing here to comfort me. The intermingling images of bare hooves, bridles, and sexual servitude in my mind seemed too complete. And the last thing I recall, I was propped up on my bare feet and dragged through a barroom by two abrasive men with no clearly defined facial features except for two bald heads fringed at the back with thick black hair. My legs were completely sapped, as I had an arm around each of their short, thick necks. And almost all of the patrons were stooped over in their chairs, with their faces flat on the tabletops. And the stained checkered cloths and the dusty curtains hung almost to the floor. Must be the end of the night, I thought. And then the listless scene suddenly ruptured as one man smashed a wooden chair over another man's back. For a second, I thought this was only meant for me to see. And then they shoved me into one of those little ricks and slammed the door behind me. It seemed I didn't have much time left. And it was this sudden matter that concerned me now, if not of not having time. And two eunuchs with copper teeth approached the car in tandem. They clapped their hands loud and with a certain pizzazz. An unctuous, porous skin stretched out across their bird-like faces. I could feel their bony fingers inspecting my empty pockets and delicately moving on to my more impotent region of my groin. They were visibly annoyed. I felt apologetic. The driver seemed unperturbed. He waited until they were done with me. He must have known them. I had now slid from the tattered seat to the floor of the car. Couldn't have been a coincidence that I had ended up with the least that I could have. They could have that for all I cared. My line of thought was getting more and more singular. I needed to get wherever this car was taking me. He needed to hurry before the worst happened, the worst even worse than this. And we arrived at what I assumed was the destination, seeing as the cab had stopped and the engine cut. I flung the door open with my heel and inched my way out feet first until only the back of my head rested on the doorstep. I somehow made it to my feet and directed a few courteous yet insincere words To the first passerby I saw, I must have been grimacing. In hindsight, my miserable attire must have been off-putting, seeing as my sad act was failing to endear me. I clutched her arm, and I stared at her face to face, hoping she might be able to read my thoughts. I implored mercy. She looked initially perplexed, and then simply cowered and ran. She likely took me for an alms beggar. I couldn't hold on anymore, at least not upright. A necessary impulse to make myself comfortable gained the upper hand. I was no longer able to negotiate my condition with myself. I got down on my knees, then to my hands, and I was on all fours for a moment, catching my breath, before rolling over next to the curb and the sewage drain. I hadn't done that for a while. Not like this. It was plain to see I was nobody's concern. I took that snub personally. I lay prostrate on the road trying to concentrate on a single thought. When I turned my cheek away from the asphalt, I glimpsed a herd of complacent faces huddled over me, looking down. My cursing could not be heard. The myalgia prevented me from articulating the revulsion I so deeply felt. Damn rubbernecks. Still, I felt a hollowed, emptied out sense of community as I lay there bare-chested on the asphalt, unattended to. A large crowd around me indicated how grave my situation had become. I would have preferred to have been left alone in my desiccated state. Their passiveness only intensified my agony. And despite everything, I felt oddly at ease. Really, this was my own time now. My hands and feet started to become numb as they curled into unbearable, deadened cubes. My chest, my face clenched into a spasmodic fist. This was new to me. I shifted my eyeballs occasionally to see who was still around. I heard a phone ring. Maybe it was Mother calling. I prayed that it was. A stranger picked up a phone from the road and nodded a few times, said, yeah, he's dying, that's all. I was irritated. He had said it within earshot. He had named it. And a disembodied hand administered 2 pills into my mouth. A voice told me to suck. It seemed promising, but more than likely, the wrong tablet for what ailed me. I sucked on it anyway. With unseeing eyes, I rested my gaze on the zigzag patterned sole of a sneaker that had been stuffed into a sewer drain. I'm not sure I succeeded in thinking of nothing. And then a contemptible little voice in my ear disrupted my stupor and requested the fare that I owed him. My line of thought shifted. I would have obliged had I been able to procure it for him. He was entitled to it, I guess. I was grateful. He treated me normally. Mister, he kept repeating in my ear. He could have it. If I'd had it. Fucker. I gave up. He gave up and soon went on his way. It was just drool coming from my head. I still owed something, even now. Even now. That was really the end of that.
something better than